What if you could get a real-time pulse on what the world really thinks is going to happen next? Not from talking heads on TV, not from polls, but from a place where people are literally putting their money where their mouth is. Okay, let's dive into this because today we are decoding the future. We're going to use prediction markets as our guide, pulling together data from every major sector to see what the crowd is actually betting on.
And we are starting right in the thick of it. Just look at this. This is a massive $5 million question mark hanging right over the U.S. economy. Is the Fed going to cut rates, or are they going to hold? The market is almost perfectly split. 55% of the money is betting on a cut, while 46% is betting rates will hold. See, this isn't just a survey. It's a super high-stakes bet on our economic future, and it shows you just how powerful these markets are at capturing deep, real uncertainty.
So, what exactly are we looking at here? Well, a prediction market is basically a crystal ball, but it's powered by the wisdom of the crowd. It's pretty simple. People buy shares in different outcomes. So if a share for yes costs, say, 60 cents, that means the market, as a whole, believes there's a 60% chance of that thing happening. It's a really powerful tool for forecasting because it turns all that collective belief into a single, straightforward number.
All right, so how does this play out in the real world? Let's start with two areas that are always connected: politics and economics. And what we find here is this fascinating mix. Some things have super high conviction, while others are filled with deep, deep ambiguity.
Now, what's so interesting here is the contrast. On one hand, the market is almost completely certain about a political action happening soon, a 95% chance of a Trump executive order on the border. That's some serious conviction. But then look over to the right. When we look just a few years down the road to the 2028 Democratic nomination, suddenly it's a total toss-up. It's a wide-open field, and that reflects this massive uncertainty about who's going to be leading in the future.
Now take a look at this number. Almost $7.6 million. And no, that's not a company's valuation or anything like that. That's the total amount of money being wagered on a single yes or no question.
So the question, of course, is what? What pivotal event has grabbed this much attention and this much capital? What question is so important that people have staked millions and millions of dollars on its outcome?
So, this is the total money traded on the question of whether Donald Trump will be out as president this year. Right now, the market gives it a tiny 2% chance. But the sheer volume of money moving around shows you just how central this question is to the political landscape. It's a perfect example of how these markets measure not just probability, but also public focus. We break down markets like this every single week, so be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out.
And shifting over to the economic side, that theme of division just keeps going. Check this out. An enormous $11 million market. That is a huge amount for a policy question. And the traders are totally split on what the Fed's going to do in 2025. As you can see, it's basically a coin flip. 54% of that 11 million is betting on exactly 3 rate cuts, while 42% is betting on exactly 2. The main takeaway here is, even with millions of dollars on the line, there is absolutely no clear consensus on the path forward for the economy.
Okay, next up, let's look at technology and crypto. And here, a really interesting pattern starts to emerge. We see this strong belief in the ability of big companies to deliver on their promises. But that's set against a much more cautious, speculative view on crypto. It's a real story of execution versus speculation.
And this right here gives us a great snapshot of that tech landscape. On one side, you see these really high probabilities for specific corporate milestones, which shows a ton of confidence in their ability to execute on their roadmaps. But on the other side, when you start looking at more speculative things like future prices or who's going to be the market leader, the odds get way more divided. Here is a perfect example of that corporate conviction I was talking about. The market is giving an 89% probability that Elon Musk will remain the wealthiest person in the world this year. That is a powerful vote of confidence in the stability and continued growth of his companies. And hey, if you're finding this analysis valuable, do me a favor and drop a like. It really helps us out.
And that conviction isn't just a one-off thing. Look at this list. We're talking 95% confidence that Google will release Gemini 3.0 this year. 94% that Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket will finally launch. 92% that Medline announces an IPO. The market has incredibly strong faith that these major players are going to get the job done.
But now, let's pivot over to crypto prices, and you'll see the sentiment shifts dramatically. The market is actually slightly bearish on Ethereum, seeing a 53% chance it drops below $3,000 this year. And for Bitcoin, well, that conviction for a massive new all-time high is just not there. Only a 16% chance of it hitting $130,000 this year. That suggests the market thinks that huge bull run might have already peaked for now.
Okay, but this is where it gets really fascinating.
What a contradiction, right? While the market is bearish on the price, it's overwhelmingly bullish on adoption. A 95% confidence that another country is going to add Bitcoin to its balance sheet this year. So the key insight here is that the market is making a very sophisticated distinction. It's separating the long-term adoption of the technology from its volatile short-term price. That tells you a lot about how serious players view the space. To stay on top of these fast-moving trends, you should follow us on Twitter for more updates.
All right, moving on to our third section, climate and the global outlook. And there's a clear theme here too. The market is very focused on the immediate and the predictable, while showing this deep ambivalence towards bigger systemic shifts.
And this slide just illustrates that point perfectly. Look, the market is great at short-term predictions. An 89% chance the temperature in LA hits a certain mark. Easy. But then you ask if 2025 will be the hottest year ever, the odds just plummet to 3%. And we see the exact same pattern on the global stage. High confidence in the stability of central banks, but the odds of a major geopolitical shakeup? A tiny 2%. The market is overwhelmingly betting on the status quo.
So, after looking at all these individual puzzle pieces, what's the big picture? Let's connect the dots and put together a synthesized forecast based on what the markets are telling us across the board.
So here it is, all laid out. Politics is polarized, right? We've got short-term certainty but long-term confusion. The economy is divided, with traders split right down the middle on the Fed's next move. Tech is bullish, but it's specifically bullish on the ability of established companies to execute. Crypto sentiment is cautious, separating the tech's long-term adoption from its short-term price. And the global outlook? It's firmly rooted in the status quo. This is the synthesis of millions of dollars and thousands of traders all making their bets on the future. And we deliver this kind of synthesis every week, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out.
And all that leaves us with one final, kind of provocative question to chew on. When we see a market price in a 95% probability for something, does that just reflect reality? Or does that super high probability itself actually influence decisions and, in a way, help make that future happen? It's something to think about. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to share and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.